Hello, I'm Rico Cavella, and this is your Ageless Body Self-Care Guide, the operations manual for your body and for your mind. And the title of today's session is Living Through the Heart. Now, in this session, we're going to learn why not living through your heart is one of the big reasons that we struggle in being successful in all aspects of our life. So this is a really important topic. And we have a great expert and teacher today. Her name is Lisa Gunshore. She is a channel, a functional Ayurvedic coach, and author. She is a natural mystic and has a deep connection to spirit since she was a small child. She supports you in your journey of healing in both the physical and spiritual realms through strategic plans and messages of truth. And a message of truth is really what we all need right now these days in so many ways. So Lisa, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here. So thank you.
Thank you. So, all right, well, let's just get right into it. And so my very first question is, tell us, define what you mean by living through the heart.
Well, it's such a big, broad topic, but the best way for me to explain it is to be living authentic to yourself, living in your truth with what you believe is your own truth and your own connection to God's source, and it's being able to say yes to your inherent gifts and talents. It's being able to connect with the deeper parts of yourself that maybe you've distracted yourself from, or you haven't given yourself space for. And it's really the journey to love. It's the journey to loving yourself. It's the journey to understanding your own divinity and being able to stand true within that. So to me, living from the heart, or living through the heart, or living with the heart, however you want to say it, it's really saying yes to loving yourself. And through that love comes an abundance of energy and vitality that helps you to do what you came here to do, to accomplish your mission in this world and in this life.
That's really well said. My next question was going to be, why is this so important? And I think you answered that as well. And I just want to add that, being a personal trainer all these years and working with so many people, you always wonder why people have such a hard time, really sticking with a healthy eating or exercise program. And so what I finally realized was I think a lot of people have a little disconnect between their physical self and their spiritual self. And so just what you were talking about, when you really learn to be your authentic self and live through your heart, and then you discover what your divine purpose is, then I think that's going to make you realize that your physical body is your gift to do what you're meant to do here, right? And so that, I think hopefully that'll motivate you to take the best possible care of your physical body so you can be as successful as you want to be.
Yeah, I think to add to that, or to put an exclamation point at the end of what you're saying, is if you don't love yourself, then you don't want to take care of yourself. You don't put yourself first. And I think what happens is we give our power and our control over to our distractions, whether that's work or tasks we have to do or activities we have to accomplish. We have these goals we want to meet, and we forget why we have those goals. We forget why we're at that job or in that career. We forget why we're going to the personal trainer. We forget those things. And so it's hard to stick with it. And so to your point, it's a lot easier to stick with taking care of yourself in all the ways, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, if you really feel that love for yourself. And it's through loving yourself that you can you have the energy to do all of those things. So it's real tricky because you can give all your energy away, and that will deplete you, but you can actually have the same or even more energy output if you fill up yourself and take care of yourself first.
Yeah, absolutely. So good. We'll talk a little bit about why you think so many people do struggle with this, so why, we hear a lot of people say, you got to get out of your head and into your heart. So why do you think so many people we are really stuck up into our head and into our ego, and we get so distracted from really what our life's really about? So talk a little bit about that. What really is some big causes of why we get so much into our head and intellect and not into our heart?
Well, we come into this world and we're these malleable light beings who come here, and we want to have this experience here, and we want to learn self-love, and we want to connect with other beings like us. And what happens is we get caught up in cyclic existence. We get caught up in the television, we get caught up in what people think, a lot of us have trauma. There's some kind of abuse or trauma or something that happens that knocks you down, or your parents have those patterns, they have their trauma and their patterns. And so all of these trauma and patterns of trauma and programming and connection to the linear reality kind of spins and spirals and spins and spirals. And I think that really is the root, is how do I come out of that spiral? How do I step out completely from what has been moving through my existence and look at the bigger existence, which is that we are all one with God's source, that we're all these divine light beings, and that we all are really of love. And so some of us takes our whole life's journey to understand that, to really integrate it, to come into a space with it, to heal the wounds from our past. And, everybody's journey is different, but that's what I feel. I mean, I feel at the root, we are love. So that is the root. It's all of the things that cover and manipulate the energy around that throw us off track, I feel.
Yeah, that's so well said. Yeah, I think that's totally right. I think, we're not really taught all these really important things when we're young, right? Like who we really are, and how to take care of our health, and how to be, how to build relationships, all the really important things we're not really taught. And we get so distracted by, oh, you got to go to school, and you got to learn all these things. You got to be a successful life, and you got to do this. We get so distracted on what our really life's all about. So, well, that leads me into my next question then. I know one of your books is called Enlightenment Pie. I really like that title. And so it's about some healing spiritual practices. So what you were talking about, so talk about a little bit more about what spirituality means to you, and then how it's connected to actually, creating good health. And then tell us some of the well, answer that first, and then I'll ask you about some practices that you teach.
For sure. So Enlightenment Pie really started as this little journey of writing about how I had gone through this health experience. And it ended up being so much more. It ended up being this real process to healing. And so what I can say is this: I did not start my health journey by signing up with a trainer and getting on a diet and going off and I'm going to get healthy and I'm going to, get fit. My journey actually started spiritually. My journey started with me learning to meditate. I am a multi-generational psychic medium. So when I was a kid, I had all of these experiences with beings that had passed, and I didn't really know how to manage my energy. And so I actually started out going to a clairvoyant training program to understand how to use my gifts, but I don't even know if that's the right terminology. It was really to understand what was happening and if there's anything I could do to manage it in a better way. And it really opened up my whole world. And it really taught me that I was not only very sensitive to my environment and to the people around me, but one of the things that it did was it woke me up to the lack of vitality that I had. I was exhausted all the time. I had a lot of fatigue. I was consistently sick. I had chronic ear infections. I got pneumonia very easily. I was just really unwell. And I also weighed 250 pounds. So I was overweight. I was exhausted. I was stressed. I was overworking, and I was really emotional. And as I started my meditation and my spiritual journey and my practices of mindfulness, I started to see myself for who I really was. And I think that that is the key, is really understanding that, no, my gums really shouldn't bleed. No, I really shouldn't be 100 pounds overweight. Like, it's actually not okay. And that's a tricky thing because there's a lot of energy out there about accepting yourself for who you are. And I think that's true in a balanced way. But I think there's something about denying where you're really at that can create a lot of problems. And so my journey of health and healing really started by seeing myself for who I really was and for how I was really living, and understanding that it wasn't normal. It wasn't normal for me to be sick. It's not normal. It's just accepted. And we think about that in our lives right now. It's acceptable to have migraines. It's acceptable to have fatigue. Oh, take this thing, do this thing. Instead of saying, no, we were born with this right to live our life in vitality and strength and have full energy, and that we actually don't have to have those other symptoms. And so this began my journey of health and healing. Not only did I lose 100 pounds through that time frame, but I went and learned about myself. I went and did a genome analysis. I went and did my food allergy testing. I went to the gym, and I got a trainer because I wanted to understand what's right for my body. I was really wanting to understand real information, truth about who I was. And that, partnered with the spiritual, is how I was able to integrate it. It wasn't just, oh, I should do this thing 10 times. It was really, I'm doing this practice. It led me to get my yoga teacher certification so that I can teach yoga. Like, it took me into a space where it's like, I wanted to understand the body. I wanted to understand the mind. And I also wanted to understand the spiritual body. So it was really a connection of all of those things, which led me to write my book, because I found one of the things that I learned is that I'm an MTHFR mutant. I'm compound heterozygous MTHFR, for all the biohacking epigenetic nerds that watch this. And I really had to live differently. I have to manage my environment and my food differently in order to support myself. Now, the cool thing is that's all I have to do. I don't have to take a supplement unless I really want to make something more happen, or, everything I do is managed through my diet and through my spiritual practice. And so the book is my story. It talks all about the good, bad, and the ugly about what I went through health-wise. And it also goes through the spiritual practices to heal yourself. And then, of course, the diet piece as well. I don't really like to use the word diet. I call it intuitive diet. Because it's really about eating what feels right to you and your body, but you have to get connected to your body to know that. So that's a big part of it.
Yeah, well, that's so good. That's such a great story. And I think a lot of people can really relate to your story. So I just want to add, on the point that you were making about, we're told to accept ourselves. Yeah, accept ourselves as a eternal loving being, but you don't have to accept yourself if you're not taking care of your physical body and you're not doing what you're meant to do here. So that's why we're here, to learn to grow through that. So I think what might be helpful for our viewers is, so tell us some of the spiritual practices that you do now, and also some of the spiritual practices that people could begin doing right away to make a difference in their lives, and so that they will begin to realize how important their health and their physical body and mind are.
Yeah, for sure. So I have 2 practices in my book that are my favorites. There's actually several practices. In fact, my book is a self-inquiry journal as well. And I do have Enlightenment Pie, the food journal. That is a full-on self-inquiry journal with 30 days worth of charts as well to track your food if you are interested in really understanding how your diet affects you without doing a bunch of testing, because that can get pricey. And so 2 of the practices I love are both mindfulness practices. One is mindfulness of the physical body, and the other one is mindfulness of the emotional body. And it's really about connecting with yourself. And the mindfulness of the physical body is something I still do every time I meditate. And I actually put my hands on my body, whether it's a part that's overweight, whether it's a part that's in pain, whether it's a part I don't like. and I really ask what it has to say to me. I get connected to that part of my body. I ask what it wants to tell me. I look at the energy and really just get with myself. Like, you really have to just sit with yourself. And the mindfulness of the emotional body is the same way, in that you're really looking at how you feel. How do I really feel right now? I mean, when's the last time you sat and just asked yourself, how do I feel right now? Like, what am I really feeling? Especially in this day and age, all these things happening in our world, you know, to be able to say, like, I actually feel scared, or I actually feel, you know, okay, or, you know, I'm feeling happy. Whatever it is that you're feeling, it's okay to admit it to yourself and to get really clear about the truth of what is actually going on with you. And so it's really about accessing stillness and then becoming mindful. So those are my two favorite practices. And from there, I have a list of inquiry questions all throughout each chapter based on the theme of the chapter. So I kind of tell my little story, and then I have some practices at the end of each chapter with some questions. And those inquiry questions invite you to really ask yourself what is happening with these things that are coming up. So for example, if you're connected with your body, is to ask yourself, how does my body feel? Where am I in pain? You know, how do I feel about my physical form? You know, do I feel sluggish? Do I feel hyper? What am I really feeling? And then getting deeper with those questions. Well, what does that mean? What does that have to say for me? What's that doing for me right now? How do I support that? Then you can really start to dig into what's really going on with your body and communicating with your body. Once you get connected to your body, it's just like a spirit guide or any other kind of entity you're trying to connect to. Once you connect to your own body, it has a lot to say to you about where you're at physically and what you need. Because how many times do we go to a gym, or this is a good one. This is a good one. You'll love this one. How many of you guys who are watching right now or listening get up at 6 a.m. and go to hot yoga because you just feel like you have to go, and you're pushing yourself to go, and you've got to go early because you've got to go to work, and you go and you sweat and you do all these things, you go to work and you're just exhausted all day. Right? We've all done it. How many of you actually wake up in the morning and say, is it really okay for me to do this today? Or do I need the rest? What does my body want? And I have an Oura ring. I don't know if you're familiar with those. It's OURA. They are really cool biohacking ring, and they tell you everything about your body, and you tell you about your sleep and all of that. But they track your recovery time at night. And I get messages on my phone from my ring in the morning that says, you did not recover well. Like, your heart rate variability is off. You're not feeling right. You need to take it easy. If I had a hike, if I was going to go hike a 14er, I live in Colorado that day, I'm going to make a different decision. But you shouldn't need a phone to tell you that, is my point, right? Like, you should know, but it's such a good mindfulness reminder. I actually love my ring for lots of reasons. And one of them is that, because it's like, oh, like, I really didn't get rest. Like, I really do need to take it easy. It's almost like giving yourself permission. So that mindfulness of the body is so important, to be able to say, what is it I really need? Maybe you need restorative yoga and to slow down and to calm down your nervous system and get into a peaceful space. Maybe you don't need to do a power vinyasa and crush your body and push it to the nth degree. Maybe it doesn't need that right now.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so well said. So what I'm really hearing there, I think the important message is that is the mindfulness. You know, go into your own self. You know, we're always looking for answers outside of ourselves, externally, but really everything we need to know is inside of our own self. You know, our body and our spirit, our higher self knows the answers. If we will just slow down enough to connect with it, that's where we really need to go. And again, that's what living through the heart is, right? Connecting to your heart, and because all the answers are really inside of ourselves. So I think that's the big message, as you so well laid out for us. Okay, well, Yeah, let's talk, before we talk about anything else that you want to add that you think that people could start to do right now that'll be helpful. I'd like to talk a little bit about heart-brain coherence. That's such an amazing thing that people can easily do, and I think we could tell them how to do that right now.
Yeah, you know, our mind loves to do all sorts of things. But if you really think about it for a minute, I bet each and every person can identify when you've thought something that came from your heart and not your mind. I bet you have that moment where it's like, that was one time where I just knew I knew it in here. It wasn't up here. I knew it here. And so there's a real connection to coming into your center. You know, the thymus gland is also your high heart chakra or energy center. And that is known as the seat of the soul. That is the place where you sit within yourself. That's the grounding space, and that's the space of compassion, generating bodhicitta is what they say in Tibetan Buddhism. So when you pull your energy, and you can feel yourself do it, you can bring your energy down into the thymus gland. You can even tap the thymus gland if you want to, but you're going to pull yourself down into the seat of the soul and into the heart center. And then think from there, think from that spot. Because when you think from your heart, you're really not thinking anymore, you're feeling. And oftentimes when I'm in sessions with clients, a lot of things, and patients, a lot of things that happen is they cry. And they're crying because what we do is we pull, like my process is pulling you into your heart. That's what we do when we connect. And the minute you allow yourself to feel, a lot of times a lot of pain comes up. And that pain is the stuff that your mind hasn't wanted you to think about. Your mind wants you to think about your shopping list. Your mind wants you to think about what you need to do today. Your mind wants you to think about what you haven't done. The mind is full of negative self-talk, all of these things. And when you get into the heart, it's suddenly that all goes away. All that garbage goes away and you can just be with you. And honestly, for me, active meditation is the #1 way to create the connection between the heart and the mind for me. It's really hard for me to just sit. Now, it's much easier these days, so don't get me wrong. I mean, I definitely sit in meditation a lot. But my preference is a hike, a yoga practice, stretching, working with my fascia. For me, working with my physical body actually pulls me out of my mind and into my heart space. So you can actually use your physical practices, your exercise, your activities to engage the heart center, pull yourself out of your mind and bring yourself into your heart space while you're doing something that's physically distracting you. And that's where you'll have a connection to spirit that you really, could never expect. I remember years ago, this is just a little anecdote, but years ago, I was really into kind of doing some small marathons. I'm not a runner, so it was kind of like a goal for me. Can I run a 5K? Can I run a 10K? And I live in Colorado, so we have a big race called the Boulder. It's every year on Memorial Day. It's a 10K. So I was really training for this 10K. And one of the books that I read to train, believe it or not, I read a book, and it's called Running with the Mind of Meditation. Wow. And it's by Sakyong Mipam. And that book was really incredible because it was really bringing together the physical and the spiritual. And that's a running theme in my book and in many teachings that are out there, is combining the physical with the spiritual is how you create integration. And that's when you can start seeing the results that you want to see in your physical space, but also in your mental and spiritual space.
Yeah, that's so good. I really like the way you say it, the way you help people to really get into the heart. I just want to add, there is an exercise that I just want to briefly talk about. There's a company in Northern California, or actually institute, called HeartMath Institute, and they actually scientifically discovered that our heart actually gives us much more electromagnetic gives off many more electromagnetic frequencies, and it's much more electrically active than our brain. So our heart is actually sending more messages to our brain than our brain is to our heart. And what they discovered, using the latest technology, how they can hook up the heart and the brain to these machines that can actually measure brain waves and all that. So what they discovered was, when you actually go into your heart, as you mentioned, put your hand on your heart and breathe a little bit and go into your heart space. And when you have the feelings of gratitude and compassion, as you mentioned, that sends these electromagnetic frequencies to the brain, and it really mellows out all the brain waves. It gets them in sync, and they're nice, smooth, calm, nice brain waves. And so what that does, then that's the messages that your brain sends to your body for healing, to get your body in sync and to be in harmony and to be relaxed. And same thing with, so that's gratitude and compassion. And then the other hand, they measure if you were angry, or you were upset, or you were complaining, or any kind of a negative emotion we can think about. And then what that does to your brain, it gets your brain all disruptive and all erratic brain waves. So then if that's the state you're in, then that's sending those kind of messages to your body, and that's what's getting your body all stressed out and creating a lot of dis-ease in the body. So that's a simple exercise you can do, is just put your hand on your heart and just stay with a few minutes of thoughts of gratitude or of compassion. And so then you're connecting to your brain, and then your brain's going to send those nice harmonic feelings and emotions down to your body.
Love it. That's beautiful.
That's so interesting, right? Okay, well, here's really the last question I always like to ask all of our experts, and it's the toughest one to answer. So I have to ask you, what ideas do you have to actually get people inspired and motivated to take action on your recommendations, to actually get started and say, okay, I'm going to start taking care of my life. I'm going to start being more mindful. I'm going to do some of the recommendations that you offered. What ideas do you have to get them to say, okay, I'm going to do it?
Well, I think that these programs, like what you're putting together, and the information and the teachers and the experts and all of us together, this creates an invitation to heal yourself. And during this time of great awakening, I think, are you going to accept the invitation? Are you going to say, yes, I'm ready to put myself first. I'm ready to stop the endless cycle of suffering. I want to feel good. I want to do something I'm proud of. I want to be happy every single day. I want to step into my power. I want to look good. That's a real thing.
Yeah.
I want to be happy and feel joyful. Like, that is what you're being invited to do when you step into any kind of inner work. Whether that inner work is a yoga teacher training, or a new kind of diet or lifestyle, whether it's self-inquiry. I mean, my book, Enlightenment Pie, is not for the lighthearted at all. It's hard work, and there's a lot of questions in there, and there's a lot of having to look at yourself. And so the question is, are you ready to do it? Because if you are, then just step into it, say yes, do it, do the work. It'll be worth it, because the time is up. This is the time. The time is now to do this work. There's no other time. You're not going to have another chance in this body, in this moment, in this consciousness to do that work. And so I think it's really about making that decision to accept the invitation and to step into the truth of who you are, and to live true to yourself means that you are sharing your inherent talents, that you're doing what you do best in a way that fills you up and makes you feel joyful. This is not a, gosh, if I, can manifest this, or if I can do this program, this is just about you and your journey, and deciding to be on a journey of health and healing.
Wow, Lisa, thank you so much for that. That was so well expressed. And that's exactly what this whole project is all about. We're here to support you in your journey, and you're stepping up and being your best self. And it's really just about realizing that you can do it. You know, many people are doing it, and you can do it as well. And we actually need you to do it. As you know, we have lots of challenges to meet these days in this world, and we need everybody to, we need you to step up and be your best self and use your talents, as Lisa was talking about, and just becoming who you really are, and living your purpose and making a big difference in the world. And we know you can do it. And I promise you, when you follow the recommendations of all of our experts, it's going to make a huge difference, and really help you to really create, really improve your overall health and well-being and every part of your life. I also want to remind you that there's a PDF that comes along with this video, and so there's where you could connect with Lisa and see all the things that she has to offer. You know, how you can connect with her, get coaching, or get her books, or get just learn more from her. So that's a big advantage of this whole product. You know, you get to stay connected to all of our experts and learn from them as we progress on. So be sure and check out the PDF. And so once again, Lisa, that was just so awesome. Well, I think you get the last word. I don't think anything else could be said what you just said. That was so good. That was so good. So it's up to you. All you got to do is step up and do it, right?
Yes, yes. Just say yes.
Just say yes
in all capitals.
And you can do it.
Yes.
All right. Let's leave it at that. Thanks so much. Thanks so much for watching.